Welcome back. With us now is Republican Congressman Byron Donalds, who joins us from his district in Naples, Florida. Congressman, welcome. The two schools of thought seem to have emerged around the implications for the U.S. after the fall of the Assad regime. One is that now is the time to maximize pressure on a faltering Russia, while the other is to step back and push for a ceasefire in Ukraine. Where are you on that kind of question?
Well, I think the first thing is making sure that we have a ceasefire in Ukraine. That war does need to come to an end. It's been going on for far too long. And so obviously with Syria falling, it sort of demonstrates a lack of ability for Russia to be able to continue to provide resources to Assad and Syria. So I think the mission now is get a ceasefire in Ukraine, bring that conflict to an end, and then use this opportunity really to assess what's happening in Syria. I don't think any sudden movements are necessary right now. But if we remember going back to the first Trump administration, the Abraham Accords, that agreement of mutual peace and security in the Middle East might actually be the conduit to broader stability in that region and could actually lead to further weakening of the Iranian regime.
Okay, let's come back to domestic politics and Washington business. We are 12 days away from a partial government shutdown, and there is a debate among House Republicans as to whether you all should support a short-term extension so the president-elect and a Republican Senate can have a say in setting spending levels for next year. Others say the House should set spending levels for the next year now so the Trump administration can focus on other priorities next year. Where are you on that?
My position to my colleagues has been clear for a long time. What we witnessed a month ago in the presidential election was a mandate for Donald J. Trump. And so to negotiate spending with Joe Biden and the outgoing administration and have Joe Biden's policies continue in the United States for another 10 months, to me, is unconscionable. President Trump needs to be the party that Republicans in the House and the Senate negotiate federal spending, but also federal policy going forward, because the voters are very clear about which way they want our country to go and who they want leading it. They do not want the policies of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They want the America First policies of Donald J. Trump. So that needs to be the premise upon which any spending is negotiated going forward.
Okay, so that could complicate the big plans that they've got in the Senate. Incoming Senate Majority Leader John Thune outlined a two-step process for advancing the president-elect's agenda. First would be passing a bill within the first month after Inauguration Day that would tackle border security, energy production, increase military spending, and then move to a bill to extend and expand the tax cuts from the first Trump administration. Is that the right approach?
Well, I think there's actually a lot of consensus being built around that approach, but we're talking about two very different things. The first question was about federal spending here in the lame duck and what we're going to do with the government's pocketbook going through next September. The other is the budget reconciliation process, starting with the slimmer package around some of the key priorities of President Trump and, frankly, the voters of America around securing our southern border and starting the process of repatriating illegal immigrants to their home countries, followed by a larger package around tax policy. Funny thing happens in Washington when there is the political will to do something, we find a way to accomplish it all. So I do think there's an avenue upon which Republicans in the House and the Senate, working with the White House, can accomplish all those things while also making sure that we don't continue the radical policies of Joe Biden, which the American people clearly said they do not want going forward.
Sort of raise the stakes around that question. Are you concerned, though, that the immigration measures that would come out of the Senate will be too narrow in scope for your liking, certainly compared to the House Republicans who've had their plan, H.R. 1, from day one? Are you concerned about getting jammed here at all?
No, I'm not, actually. I think there's probably going to be some bipartisan support for a lot of the border security measures that House Republicans have wanted for a long time, the same border security measures that Donald Trump brought with him in his first administration and he's going to bring back in his second. I would ask you go talk to some of the Democrat senators who are up for election in 2026, like a Ossoff in Georgia, like a Peters in Michigan. You already saw the resounding victory, the mandate given to Donald Trump primarily to secure our southern border. So for those Senate Senate Democrats, I would say now is the time to let go of these radical ambitions of open borders and to secure this nation, working with President Trump and congressional Republicans in both chambers.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.